Hey, what's up? So this video is about lifting weights. So the joke is, I've always liked this phrase, "Bro, do you even lift?" Because it's just so macho. It sounds funny, right? I mean, but in recent years, or like over the last year, I have gotten into weightlifting myself. I've become, it's come to my attention that resistance training, meaning going to the gym and lifting weights, doing calisthenic exercises, but really going to the gym and lifting weights, and is something that is important for longevity. And for a lot of things, it helps to have a strong body and to use your body and to be in touch with your body. So it's like, okay, it's one thing to want to do that, but then it's like you can go to the gym, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can hurt yourself very easily doing certain exercises such as deadlifts or squats, where you put like a lot of weight on a bar on your shoulders and then you squat down. If you don't have an anterior tilt to your pelvis, like your pelvis tilted forward and your back straight and your head up, and you brace your abdominal muscles, so you have this tension. That's why people use belts and stuff. You can hurt yourself. You can be lifting a relatively small amount of weight, but because all of your mechanics are off and you just have no clue what you're doing, you can really screw yourself up. And then all of a sudden, you need to take 2, 3, 4 weeks to recover, depending on where you're at in your training and all this kind of stuff, right? But we're talking about a newbie essentially, right? So you know, if you start going to the gym and you do hurt yourself and you realize that you have no clue what you're doing, and then you have to, if you do want to pursue it and take it seriously, you need to essentially start doing research. You need to start watching videos and talking to people, and also, of course, navigating it all, finding your own way within this thing of going to the gym and getting fit. And it's like even like for myself as a yoga instructor, if you don't know what you're doing, you can hurt yourself. You do certain things because you don't know what to pay attention to, and then it creates too much tension in a certain area, and all of a sudden you get this and then you're out. And so the thing is like, yoga is good for a lot of things, but it does not take the place of resistance training, which is going to the gym and lifting heavy weights. Nor do either of those things take the place of cardiovascular exercise. So it's like, you know, lifting weights is a part of a healthy, healthy lifestyle, I suppose, right? And so, but the thing is, with knowing how to lift weights, you know, something that I've learned in the process, and that I will tell certain people when they say, "Oh, wow, you're going to lift that?" And it's like, "Yeah." And I mean outside of the gym. And what I say is, like, if you don't know how to lift heavy things, don't. It is not in your best interest, especially if you're not stretching and you're not strength training. You know, when somebody says, "Hey, can you help me move this thing?" say no, or just like, "I can't," or "Can you show me how?" But because it is very easy to tweak your back, and it can really screw up your life and your activities, not to mention the pain and agony and the lost sleep and productivity that comes from injuring yourself foolishly. And so this is the thing. It's like, it is foolish because it's serious. You can really hurt yourself doing certain things, and And so I guess I'm just kind of like trying to roll all this into one. It's like, what did I learn in this process of hurting myself and then going back to the drawing board and then thinking that I'm knowing what I'm doing, but still not quite, and then injuring myself again, and then really having to take it seriously and start watching videos about what's going on. And it's a science called hypertrophy. And so there's two types of hypertrophy. There's myofibular hypertrophy, and then there's sarcoplasmic. And so one of them involves lifting really heavy weights just for a few amount of reps, whereas the other one involves lifting a more moderate amount of weight for a higher amount of reps. And they both have different stimulus. They both do different things and are essentially a part of a weightlifting program that you might make for yourself. And so I have, the thing is, you go on the internet and there are so many different teachers or people who have different philosophies, and they will say that theirs is the best and that it worked for them. And there's no doubt that maybe it did. Are they telling you everything? That's another story, or another, who knows, right? So it's tricky to navigate what works the best, because at the end of the day, I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm not Mike Mentzer, I'm not, anybody but me. And it's like, at the end of the day, I have to find out what works for me and what makes the most sense for me. Because if I try to take what somebody else says works for them and just works for everybody and apply it to myself when I'm clearly in a bit of a different situation, just like the body that I'm in and who I am and what I'm about and what I've noticed just with my own training through life, like things that I'm doing, how I notice that my body reacts and responds to certain things. It's important to work with what works for you, right? And so, but on this journey, I did come across this guy named Mike Mentzer. And so his thing, it's high intensity training, and you train to failure. And so I kept learning about this stuff, and it's like, it's interesting because apparently, so he was like in the golden age of bodybuilding when people started really taking it seriously, and we started having all these machines and different ways of doing things and getting huge. Of course, a lot of guys were all jacked on steroids and whatnot, but what was it? Anyway, so like this guy, and then he had a scientific approach to it. He was an intellectual, and he developed an understanding through the teachers that he was working with on how to essentially gain muscle to make the most progress with essentially the minimal amount of effort. And so, part of it is high intensity. You need to train hard enough, or else it's just not going to stimulate the body, the muscles to grow. That's why you don't see, say, like construction workers, they're not all huge just because they're doing work that is difficult. The body acclimates, it adjusts to the work that it has to do, and it doesn't just like get really big. It doesn't grow itself a lot by just doing repetitive movements. It gets used to them essentially. And so and then training to failure is another thing too. It's like you have to work out to the point where it sends signals to your body that it's like, hey, this is a thing. We need to get stronger. We need to get bigger, so that we can essentially, deal with what the body is going through and whatnot. So it's like that has to be a thing. Another thing is what's it called? Progressive overload. And so it's like, you have to train consistently. You can't just train once a month and think that you're going to get stronger and you're going to build muscle. It's just not how it works. You need to train, you need to find an interval that works for you, and then you need to be adding weights, because it's this thing. If you're just always, this is the problem with calisthenics, is that if you're only using your body weight, say to do push-ups, well, you know, you would have to do an astronomical amount of push-ups in order to stimulate growth. And you know, there's just other ways that that you can reach that goal without having to do 1,000 push-ups a day, and it's through progressive overload, by adding a little bit more weight at a time, just a few pounds, 5 pounds, 10 pounds, even 2.5 pounds. Then eventually it adds up to you get stronger, but you don't notice the extra weight, but your body does, and it compensates for it, so then you get stronger. So anyways, back to Mike Mentzer. And so this guy, I mean, full disclosure, he died at, I think, by the age of 50. He was taking steroids and stuff like that. He was all natural until he started competing. And then at that point, you kind of have to, at least in some people's opinion, you need to use whatever you can in order to win certain competitions. And unfortunately for some people, that means taking steroids. I did a deep dive into anabolic steroids, basically like the kind of hormones that a man's body produces. It's crazy. If you just inject yourself with steroids, you'll just get bigger, because you have your with certain steroids like testosterone, because you don't even need to go to the gym. You will just grow bigger. And that's how you can tell guys that are on the juice, that are on steroids, is that they have abnormally large portions of their body, which typically require like a lot of hard training to develop, and it's like in the shoulders and stuff like that. So it's like when you see a guy that has this like massive neck and stuff like that, because it makes your muscles just go boom, you know, like I think it's crazy. I think you can put on like, I don't know if it's like 10 pounds of muscle in like a month or a couple months or something like that. It's insane what a shortcut it is, just putting this stuff in you. But at the same time, it'll make your testicles shrink to the size of raisins, because you no longer need them, because you're essentially getting it triggers a response. It's like, okay, well, the body doesn't need to produce testosterone or these other hormones anymore, so your testicles shrink to the size of a peanut, which is, I don't know, that's pretty scary, you know. And there's a ton of other side effects that can come from it, and including death and stuff like that. So and it's crazy out there, because there's like a lot of young kids now that will take steroids. You know, we're talking kids that are in high school, and it's really a big deal in Mexico and stuff like that too, because you can buy anabolic steroids over the counter you go into a pharmacy and you ask them for it, and then they pull out a thing. I mean, you can Google this stuff. It's not like, it's crazy. They say that like down there, because it's just so readily available, it's like 60-70% of the people who are at the gym are on steroids. You know, it's like, I don't know. Anyways, so looked into that. It's pretty I don't know, scary. I don't know if it's scary, but anyways. So this thing though, learning about, it's like, okay, so what do I need to do to achieve my fitness goals? I don't want to get massive. I just want to be a lot stronger and a little bit bigger. And I want to live a long life, because there's something called sarcopenia, which is age-related muscle wasting. It's like if you don't use your body, if you don't use your muscles, they will just waste away. And there is a mortality rate that is like greater, that is associated with people who have very little body mass. It helps if you have body mass anyways. And so I don't know all of the science behind that anyways, but from what I've researched and heard about, it is important for you to use your body, to have a strong body, to have muscles and not just be frail and weak and all that kind of stuff. Because also then when you're eating or when you're working out, you have more of a, you pay closer attention to your diet, because all of a sudden it really matters that you're intaking enough carbohydrates and enough protein, your macronutrients and your micronutrients and all this kind of stuff. And so it's just like, it's a part of being healthy, is having a strong, healthy body that you use all the time, that you're active, that you engage. And then you, of course, you do the stretching, because it'll negatively impact your performance if all you do is lift weights. So you're going to do the stretching and you're going to do the cardio, because it all has a like adding up effect. And it's good. So yeah, it's something that it's weird, because like, I don't know, I used to have in my head that going to the gym was just for these like macho dudes, and there are those dudes that are there, but who cares? At least they're doing something, they're putting in hard work, sculpting their bodies, and like, yeah, I don't know, for me, like, I have just a completely different view of people who go to the gym and lift weights, and like, whether it's just for like, what you look like and stuff, who cares? Why not be proud of what you look like and whatnot? It's funny, like this thing, how you can like look at someone and think that they're silly, for doing something, which is actually really hard. And it takes a lot of know-how too, because like I said, you don't just go to the gym and just start lifting weights. That's how you hurt yourself, and possibly make no progress, because so you have to get educated. So it's a fantastic thing, what I have learned about going to the gym. And so and so this is the thing. So like this, it's like with this Mike Mentzer thing, it's like, so this guy, there's controversy about him, because he was on, I think he had ADHD or something like that, and so he was on some form of like drugs, that they prescribe for that over the counter. But anyways, so there's controversy about it, but whatever, that's not, I think with all this stuff, you got to just take it all with a grain of salt, and just, you take what works, makes the most sense to you, and just, screw the rest. I don't listen to anybody or follow anybody per se. I just, but I certainly lean towards people who have a more philosophical, spiritual, scientific, and like heart-based, and just like, intelligent kind of approach to things. And also to do with like people like Jeff Cavalier from Athlete X, it's like about, he's like all about personal, what do you call it? People who, not personal trainers, but what is it? When people get hurt or whatever, and then you go to a physiotherapist, right? So coming from that perspective, like, you have to really understand what is going on in the body, how its mechanics, and how you can avoid injury and stuff like that, and like listening to as many of these guys as possible, right? And so this guy Mike Mentzer, he was very into philosophy and psychology, and he had a scientific approach, right? And so, and it was just, I think he was just at a certain place at a certain time in bodybuilding, where the teachings that he was exposed to, and then also the the teachers that he had, he developed this understanding, which a lot of people, myself included, seem to have derived quite a bit of benefit from, at least, yeah. And so the thing is about high intensity training and training to failure to stimulate growth, it forces an organism to dig deep and to develop a strategy to ensure survival. That is, it's a thing. And it's interesting because, like, when you start learning about this stuff, like, it's my ears all of a sudden perked up when I started hearing these things. It's like, wow, this is borderline spiritual. The things that he's talking about. He's talking about lifting weights. He's talking about the psychology of the body. Like, how does the body respond in to certain stimulus? How can we work with it? How can we align with this organism so that we are giving it everything that it needs so that it can give back, right? And it's like, it's very interesting. So we'll get into that in a second. There is an interesting thing that somebody said at I can't remember, Volkanovski, Alexander Volkanovski or something like that. It was during a UFC, and he just won a belt or whatever, and then they get to say a little something something, and then he says the words, they said, tell us about this, and what he says? Adversity is a privilege. It's like, and it caught a lot of people off guard because he just said it, and it was just like, it's interesting when you think about it. It's like the challenges that you face are an opportunity for growth. I mean, so the more opportunities that you have for growth, the quicker that you're going to evolve, the more opportunities that you have to become something greater, more sophisticated, more refined, more expansive and stuff like that. And so, so back to this thing, it's like, without intensity, there is little to no growth, and this is this thing about, if you go to the gym, or if you just do, you can do certain exercises, which there's no intensity and there's no growth there. And so this is back to this spiritual thing. It's like it takes going through some difficult stuff and maintaining your composure and having integrity when you go through life's trials and tribulations, and then arriving at a place where you can say, okay, I did my best, and letting that be enough, and then reflecting on it all. It's an important thing. Intensity, there's I guess the more intensity, the more opportunity is available for growth. And so being comfortable, complacent leads to stagnancy. So, like, if you just live, if you never go outside of your box, if you don't push the envelope, if you don't try to expand your consciousness, if you don't try to if you don't learn, if you're not in a learning, in a growth mindset, if you're not evolving, then it can, what they say, everything is change. That which doesn't change stagnates and dies, which is forced change. I mean, it's like change is something that is inherent in life, in this experience that we're here doing, that we call life, physical reality and whatnot. It's not about just sitting around doing nothing, and just being comfortable. There's something about being here that it's like we're supposed to learn certain lessons. One of them is like, who am I? What is this? What is my relationship to everything else and everyone else? How do I navigate this life? Should I be of service? Is there something that I can contribute that will make my life better and help other people? What am I supposed to do? And so, yeah, there's something about life with that, right? So, and what is it here? It's not that life needs to be hard, but you do need to challenge yourself. And so this is the thing too, like with going to the gym, it's not like, you're not trying to kill yourself. You don't want to buckle under the weight, but you need to provide, if you want to see growth, gains as what they're called in the gym lingo, you need to challenge yourself sufficiently. And you need to take it seriously. You have to have discipline, or you're not going to see the results that you're looking for, and then you might get discouraged because you're not seeing the results, and you're putting in a lot of work, and that's why you have to educate yourself, and you have to on and on and on. And for myself, I don't try to do this stuff at home. I go to the gym where everybody has the same mindset there. Everybody is paying attention. Some people are on their phones and listening to music. Who cares, right? I don't. I'm there, and I give her when I'm there, and I appreciate that environment. It helps keep me focused. If I had a home gym, that would be great. That I don't, but I don't. And right now, it certainly works for me going to the gym. And so you lose what you don't use. This is a thing about lifting weights that's, to me, it's a caveat. It's meaning it's not a warning, but it's something to think about. Because if you see these guys, there's certain dudes, say Ronnie Coleman, he's like black dude, massive, like, I don't know, 10-time Mr. Olympia kind of deal, huge. But then and a lot of guys that are enormous, and then they stop working out, and then you look at them and you wouldn't know that they were ever a monster. Like giant, had 20-inch biceps kind of deal. So it's just like, for me, I don't think there's no point getting that big, because why? You would have to maintain it. You'd have to eat this crazy amount of food. And you have to maintain it. So it's like, why? So really, for me, it's all about finding a happy balance with it all. And so I'm only going to build what I'm going to use, right? So yeah, finding a happy balance. So you need to push your boundaries is a thing too. So, it's something that I'm doing right now with learning how to become a musician. The reason that I'm dressed up is because I just came from my first piano recital where I played the theme from Beethoven's Fifth Symphony in a church here in Chilliwack, and it was fun. I mean, it was mostly kids that were little kids playing stuff, and nobody played their pieces perfect. It was awesome, and it was fun, right? But it helps to push your boundaries. This is why. And so here's the thing, right? So if you want to grow, you have to have this mindset, right? And so this is why drugs, recreational and pharmaceutical, can be so detrimental. And it's because they take the edge off. Things like smoking weed, having sex, orgasms, entertainment, things that are distracting, that you all of a sudden are, you zone out, and you're not doing anything that is really character building, or anything that is essentially forcing you. It's not easy to learn how to play the guitar or I'm taking drumming lessons, singing lessons. I'm singing the song Fly by Sugar Ray in front of a crowd on a mic in a few hours at the same church because I take all these lessons through Long and McQuaid. But it's hard learning all this stuff. But I mean, it's rewarding because as soon as if you pick up the guitar, if you play twice a day, every day, you can be pretty badass in about 2 years. That's what it takes according to some people. And that's encouraging for me. And so I take these lessons, right? And so and alcohol, it's not that you can't do any of these things. You can do all of these things, but they have to be as long as they're not getting in the way of the things that are going to get you to where you need to go. Because I tell you something, you do not drink alcohol and practice yoga. You do not drink alcohol and lift weights. It is a no-no. Just expect to get hurt. It is, I'm sorry to say, but you're an idiot if you do those things. And most people would agree. Can you do those things and do other things? Yeah, of course. Can you sing and drink? Of course you can. Can you smoke weed and do yoga? Of course you can. But it also helps to be focused and paying attention to what you're doing. And certainly, it's this thing these days with like kids who have ADHD. I have ADHD and OCD and I'm bipolar. But you know what? To me, these things are a gift, and I don't take drugs that essentially rob me of something that is special about me. I've just learned how to essentially work with and control and channel the energy that I have. Some people say, you take singing lessons, drumming lessons, piano lessons, guitar lessons, and you take all these courses. I just finished a course in music theory, and it's like, why? It's like, that's too much. And it's like, no, that's too much for you. Don't project what what you don't think would work for you onto me. For me, all of these things, it helps because I only want to play the guitar for so long and this and that. So it's like it helps for some people to have a lot of things that they're consistently working on. Anyways. So what else was it? So this is the interesting thing, which is what I'm sort of trying to get around to. So it's like how this is all very spiritual. How is lifting weights spiritual? Well, for starters, mind, body, and soul, like for me, as I understand it, spirituality, there's nothing not spiritual about physical reality and about your body and things like that. Because when you think about it, just for a moment, what it requires in order for your organisms to function at a very high level, it requires all of the same kind of care and attention that you might typically associate with a spiritual practice of some sort. Like your diet has to be on point. You have to be careful what you put in here, in here, in here, up here. With relationships and energy and stuff like that. Like there's nothing not spiritual about your physical body and aligning with it. Like that's what spirituality is all about, is alignment with things. It's about, other things too, frequency and vibration and resonance. But anyways, so the interesting thing about this stuff with with lifting weights is that this guy Mike Mentzer, what he recognized is that it's like that there needs to be emphasis on the recovery phase, because if you just work out forever, you will burn yourself out. Some guys will do this to prepare themselves for competitions and stuff, but it is not healthy. I mean, and it's why a lot of these guys die very young, because they don't honor this balance. And, like, even thinking about that, it's in the Bible. They say God created for 6 days and rests on the seventh. It's something that you see in farming. You have, if you overwork the land, it doesn't do any good. You need to let it rest for a period of time. So you say, work a piece of land for 6 years, and then you let it do nothing for a year so that it has time to recover and recoup from everything that it's been through, to integrate. And so this is interesting as well, because so it's just like with plant medicine. If you participate or partake in some form of ceremony, whether it's like like something that is, I don't know what you call it, like orchestrated by, not official, but like if you like something that involves other people, or whether you do it by yourself, right? So you go through this process, and I don't mean eating some mushrooms with your buddies and watching some silly movie. I'm talking about medicine, right? Because all of these plant teachers have this capacity to help you to deal with and process things that you have inside of you that is difficult to put your finger on. So some people recognizing the healing potential that is inherent within certain forms, certain organisms that belong to the plant and fungal kingdoms, they work with them. And so there is a saying that says the healing comes after the ceremony. So you ingest this medicine, you have this experience, and then what is super important is that afterwards you take the time to be alone, to reflect, and to allow the medicine to continue doing its work, because it is during this integration portion is where the growth happens. And it's the same thing when you're lifting weights. Your muscles don't get bigger as you're lifting weights, as you're pumping iron. Your muscles get bigger afterwards, once they're healing and repairing, and then you're eating, and then they grow. And so it's like having essentially, according to Mike Mentzer, it's like prioritizing the recovery is, prioritizing the recovery portion of a weightlifting regime is super important. What else? It's got to be, you got to be consistent. There has to be regularity, and also not doing too much, because if you say in a single workout, if you work yourself to the point of absolute exhaustion, and then you can't even step foot in the gym for like a couple weeks or something like that, because you just killed yourself, then you're not going to make gains. Because essentially, as far as I know now, like there is a phase when you start lifting weights, take it easy, because it's hard and your recovery is going to be not very good. But eventually you're going to be able to train once a week. And then ideally you want to be able to train a muscle or muscle groups twice a week. And so, but the thing is like, you don't want to do too much. So Mike Mentzer's thing was like, you only need to train, it's like, what do you want maximum benefit for minimal effort. It's like, who wouldn't want to go to work and get paid $1 million for doing 10 minutes of work, versus the other way around, work for 100 years and get paid $10. Of course we want to see the biggest, we want to capitalize on the smallest amount of effort, but it's not that we're shying away from it. It's just that we understand that if we're not trying to avoid putting in effort. We want to put in the right amount of effort so that we can get the growth that we need, but we're not essentially working ourselves so hard that it's going to have adverse effects on the rest of our life. And it's important. So that's the thing. It's about doing minimal, which is weird. It's a mindset, because if you don't know what you're doing, you think, oh well, I have to put in maximum effort. And it's like, no, you want to put in the correct amount of effort, and you want to put in the right amount of effort, the minimal amount, to stimulate your muscles to the point that they are going to grow, and then stop working out, and then let them do their thing, and then stimulate them again when it's time, once you've recovered. And like I said, I've noticed in my own, in my own journey with lifting weights that that my recovery has sped up a lot. Also, I have pretty much adopted an OMAD diet these days. I eat one meal a day, or I eat, say, during a 1 to 2 to 3 hour window, and it may be like a sort of a late lunch and an early dinner, but I try to have the smallest window possible, but also eating a good amount of food, which includes, it's sort of like, I'll have like a sort of a lunch, and then an hour later I'll have like essentially dinner, and then half hour after that I'll have something that is like a dessert, which to me is nuts and dried fruit and chocolate and that kind of stuff, right? So here's the other thing. It's like, so working out too much is bad, but so is too little. It's all about finding that balance and knowing what works for you, and understanding that balance is going to change as you get more familiar with the exercises, as you get stronger and whatnot. And so minimal effort and maximum result means using the best technique. It's about working smart, not working hard. There's a saying, the greatest power requires the slightest touch. There's a thing in Taoism which says the Tao adjusts for excess and deficiency. So it's about finding a balance. It's all about that. It's a matter of economy. You want to economize your resources. You don't want to deplete yourself so that you run out. You want to stimulate, and then you want to stop. So really, it's about the preservation of resources. Because really, do you go to the gym, like, is that your life? Or does your life exist outside of the gym? For me, the gym is a part of my life, but it's not everything. So I can't give everything to it, or I won't allow it to take everything from me. And so another thing too is that it's like, if you work out before your body fully recovers, then you can end up wearing yourself out. And so, as you can see, that is a problem. And I experienced this as well, because in my, preliminary weightlifting, like when I was just starting out, I tried doing it too much. And then I reached a point where I was just done. I just couldn't anymore. And I didn't know what was going wrong. And it was really frustrating. So, yeah. And so, what do they say? Um, yeah. It's about quality over quantity as well. And so I will just say, so I'm basically done sharing that stuff. I don't know who wants to hear this stuff, but I need to just share it because I get it on my chest, and I find some of this stuff so fascinating, and I just don't have anybody to share it with. And so it's neat that you can make these videos and just express yourself. It's like a journal. It's like this is therapy for me. I'm just sharing something, and then I know that I've shared it, and then I don't feel like I need to share it in any other way because I've did it, right? Because it is fascinating to me. And so something that I have done that I am just in the process of rewriting is making like a list, I guess, that has, like, instead of just watching all these videos and stuff, take notes. And you see all these exercises and you figure things that work for you and your own goals and this and that. And then it's like, and then having a list of all of the different exercises that you enjoy performing and then organizing them into a couple of different days so that you're never at the gym because you're there doing all this stuff. There's something weird when you're like all pumped up. I think it's like you're really in the moment, and it's like you don't always, you're not, I don't know if it's that you're not thinking clearly, but it helps to have a guide, something to remind you. It's like, okay, so that you're not like, oh, I wonder what exercise I could do next, or I wonder this, and then you're just picking and choosing and trying to figure things out. Whereas like if you have a list of the things, I know that when I step up to the squat rack and I go to do deadlifts, I'm working at about 190 pounds right now. And I just got a belt too, which makes a big difference for me. I really like having one. It's just a chic belt, Velcro or whatever, and I'm pretty skinny, and I got a medium size. I bought it. It was $20 on Craigslist, but I've had to alter it. I think I could do a small because that's how big I am. Yeah, and just everything for doing squats, for doing barbell curls. So it takes the guessing out of it, and then you know exactly what you're going to do. And it's not that you have to do everything, but you know what your options are. And so that you're not overtraining something. It's like, okay, well, if I just did dips, and then if I just did deadlifts, then I'm going to do a military press because I haven't worked that. And then I can do this. And of course, I want to train my abs and I want to train my back. So I'm training all of these different things. Yeah, and for me, it has made such a difference too. And then when you move up in weight, then you scribble out the old weight and then you write the new weight, and it's awesome. And so that is my spiel about lifting weights. It has become something that I absolutely love, and I can see doing for the rest of my days. I don't know why I would ever stop. If I did, it would mean that I suppose I had chosen to let myself go. Maybe I had undergone some kind of a trauma where I've just given up on life and I essentially don't want to live a long time anymore, which would be a sad thing, to be there. So I hope it never happens. And that's why I practice yoga on a daily basis, and that's why I meditate and all that kind of stuff, because and eat healthy, and even like eating an OMAD diet, a one meal a day, or eating for just like a very restricted window. It seems restrictive, but it's like it's not. I've never felt so good. My recovery has never been better. I'm thinking clearly. I'm strong. It's just challenging because for me, I had to let go of essentially eating breakfast and lunch, which is tough because there's the glutton in me that wants to do that, that just wants to get up and start eating things. But and in my maturity, I've come to recognize that it's like, well, at this point in my life, my priority is having my mind uh, functioning at its highest capacity, as well as my body. Because if those things wane, then it just seems to be a recipe for disaster when I don't have enough energy to embrace the day. Like these days, I want to get out of bed. I don't want to lie there. There's nothing happening there. I lie down just so that I can switch off for a moment and then get back up. And I mean, I've made videos about my sleeping cycle. I do have a polyphasic sleeping cycle, but yeah, I found that I've made videos about this, about just how like if you really dial yourself in, you don't need near as much sleep, which is awesome. You know, I don't, for me, because I am involved in a lot of things, but yeah, that's that's it. And so the moral of the story is that if you don't know how to lift heavy things, don't do it. Get somebody to help you. Yeah, because yeah, you can really hurt yourself. So, but and there's nothing not spiritual about going to the gym.